as a hobby, as a policy analyst of the Middle East, particularly when it comes to radical Islam. We're seeing these protests happen in Iran. They raise gas taxes here, people shrug, and they angrily mutter to themselves. In Iran, they take to the streets, and apparently we learned yesterday that as of yesterday, over 200 protesters have been killed, maybe more. What exactly is happening in Iran, and do you see this as maybe an actual potential moment where we could see some sort of regime change?
You know, we've had this already with the Green Revolution a few years ago when Obama was in charge, and he absolutely did nothing. He didn't even wave hello to the protesters. They've killed 200 people. Nobody cares. I mean, the world doesn't care. If a hair on a Hamas protester in Gaza is harmed as he's throwing a petrol bomb, the entire world flips out. Israel is a fascist state. It's apartheid. It's a massacre. But Iran is just killing unarmed people just because they can get away with it, because they know that no one cares. And that's really the double standard, Frank, that the problem we have. And I don't think that Trump, frankly, with all respect, has the brain power to know how to handle this, because it's not something that he can tweet in a handful of characters. So he's really, all he's really doing with this is with regard to the sanctions, which have been wonderful. The sanctions are what's causing the unrest in Iran. But here's the question. Israel has to deal with rockets that are coming from Gaza, paid for by Iran, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hamas. They're dealing with rockets that are aimed at them from Hezbollah, paid for by Iran. They're getting rockets sent into Israel from Syria, paid for by Iran and launched by Iran. Tell me something. Why is it that the world does not allow for Israel, instead of attacking the savages in Iran, or excuse me, the savages in Syria or in Gaza, why aren't they sending over bombs to Tehran? Because that's where it's coming from, and that's the double standards, that until this world decides we're going to have enough of radical Islam and we're going to take it to Iran, no more of these sanctions. We're not going to be threatened anymore by the fact that they're going to perhaps clog up the Strait of Hormuz and make it difficult for us to get our gas. We're going to say enough, because if we get rid of Iran, what happens to Hezbollah? Hezbollah is going to eventually leave Lebanon. Lebanon will be free. You're going to have Iran leaving Syria, and that's going to be a tremendous problem that exists right there that Trump allowed to happen. You're going to have Gaza is going to be cleaned out of the savages. And the world, and Iraq as well, Bahrain, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, all of our allies are being threatened by these lunatics. And now it's 2019. I remember being on the radio in 2007 and saying, let's just bomb them already. What are we waiting for? Why are we waiting? Because, we don't want anybody innocent to get hurt. Trump came on TV and said we don't want 150 people might have gotten killed. They attacked our asset. Right? No, I'm talking about it in the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, let me ask
what are
you,
we waiting
Jeff,
for?
So you haven't been on radio since 2007?
No, that was when I initially started.
No, but he was saying the same thing back then.
Back
when Ahmadinejad was making his threats to wipe Israel off the face of the map. Now, let me ask you, Jeff, about the situation with these leaks that came out. This journalism from the New York Times and The Intercept published these data leaks from Iran, and they showed some pretty alarming things about the level of influence that Iran has within Iraq, which is supposed to be our ally.
Who doesn't know this, Frank? Frank, you know who doesn't know this is like all the voters in America. Iran has taken over Iraq, and it's not just yesterday. We're talking years ago. Iraq is not a friendly country. We have had our young people die. They had been maimed. They had been killed in Iraq. For what? So that we could liberate that disgusting country. And in the words of President Trump, that shithole country, and we're turning it into what? A tentacle for Iran? It's outrageous.
All right, let me ask you, Jeff, about...
We're going to try to stay within the stated standards
and
protocols.
Look, I've done it in court. It's all right.
All right.
We'll see.
We hope so. Thankfully, we have some eagle-eared editors in Florida.
Yeah, Dan
as well.
and company do a great job making us look good.
Let me ask you about the Jeffrey Epstein situation. Clearly, this has gotten a lot of attention.
Dead.
John believes that there
My theory is he's not dead.
He's
dead.
You think he's dead? Yeah. What empirical evidence do we have of his death?
What empirical evidence do we have? I mean, what empirical evidence do we have that the moon is not made of green cheese?
Remains or something?
Well, they don't parade the remains of dead inmates through the streets of New York City after they die.
We kill like Osama bin Laden.
The reason why I think he's dead.
Hussein,
the reason why I think he's dead. Well, Saddam Hussein, we saw a picture of him when he was hanged, but bin Laden, we didn't see a body, did we?
I thought we saw some
photos.
No,
they rushed him out to sea.
They
wrapped him, they cleaned him, they wrapped him, and they put him where he belongs.
So tell me this, as your long storied career in criminal defense, if someone's dead at 5:30 a.m., which was reported on QAnon on the dark web that he was dead at like 5:30 a.m., the New York Post that day had a picture of them wheeling him into New York Hospital, downtown Beekman Hospital, with no oxygen or anything. So do they bring dead people to the hospital?
Well, they usually do it because there's a chance that they could resuscitate.
So
that's standard
if they were
procedure.
trying to resuscitate when they were wheeling him in, they'd have oxygen on him because
You know,
he
look,
might still be living, right?
I think that what you're not appreciating is the general incompetence of the people at the MCC.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a place
That's
that
true.
literally you wouldn't go there, they wouldn't get your Popeyes order correct. That's how bad the MCC is. I mean, they're
Popeyes, you can't even get chicken sandwich.
well, there you go.
You know what I'm saying?
And you can't get Epstein oxygen either. But the reason I think he's dead is because he's worth more dead to the people in power than alive.
All right, you tell me this. You tell me this, okay? Here's my conspiracy theory, and I'm trying to, get publicity for our TV show also. So
you want me to say something really outrageous?
No, I want you.
I can do
to
that.
tell you something. My theory is the Clintons broke him out on one condition: that he would have to run a primary against Donald Trump. And now this guy Joe Walsh, who's been abducted, is really Jeffrey Epstein.
Not a big fan of Joe Walsh.
Take a look at this, and you tell me if I'm crazy.
They do look similar. You got to give them that.
You're crazy. Look, the sad thing about the Epstein situation is that they arrested these poor schnook guards yesterday. And what was their crime? Their crime was the fact that they didn't do the rounds every half an hour. How long does it take to hang yourself, John? 30 seconds?
Yep.
So if they would have done the rounds every half hour, he only would have had 29 minutes and 30 seconds to kill himself.
Right.
This is the scapegoating that goes on. Why don't they try to explain why there wasn't staffing, why there wasn't video? This is the most high-profile inmate in the world. Why wasn't there a guard sitting next to his cell 24 hours a day? This isn't rocket science, but in the MCC, it is.
You've had clients, many clients, that are high profile, big time. And we had the former psychologist for the MCC on here. And many people have said that the sheets they use in these rooms are made to tear away. Like, it's not possible to hang yourself with the sheets.
You can kill yourself.
With the sheets.
You can kill yourself. If you want to kill yourself, you can kill yourself.
So,
period, end of story.
Let me ask Jeff, do you think this is a result of incompetence at the MCC or something more malicious? Do you think someone actually did have him whacked?
It's hard to really say. Your sort of brain is wired to think what's the most rational reason for things happening. So I do believe that he killed himself. But I would not be surprised in the least that he was killed. Not at all. I mean, I met Jeffrey Epstein. I spent time with him in prison. He did not strike me as somebody that was willing to kill himself. He more looked like the cat that had just swallowed the canary.
And just so maybe the Jeffrey Epstein was different than the one that ended up dying, however he died.
Allegedly.
About how long before he was killed or killed himself did you see him, roughly?
A couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks before he died. Yeah. Wow. And
surrounded by two 15-year-olds?
No 15-year-olds. One 54-year-old.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Can you stick around a few minutes?
Yeah.
I'd like to.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to continue to make outlandish and outrageous conspiracy theories, try to add whatever I can. But Jeff Lichtman and Frank Morano are going to break down the impeachment and more. We're going to take a quick break and come back at you right after this.